Welcome to Supply Chain Risk Management. I'm Tobin Porterfield. I'll be your instructor, your guide for this as we dive in together in this online course to get an understanding of supply chain risk in today's business environment. So the arrangement of this course is it is going to be taught in a 7-week series. So we're going to condense a traditional 15-week semester into just 7 weeks. Means that we'll be covering twice as much material each week, but I believe I have it organized very well and put together in a logical way that while it will be a intense experience, we should be able to work through the material and get a really good knowledge base. This week we're just going to get started into the course and identify exactly what is supply chain risk and why it's a big issue today, and then get our heads around it in such a way that we'll be able to move forward into looking at different sources of risk in the supply chain. The second week we'll look at 2 chapters. The resilience chapter, what's it mean to have a supply chain that actually can withstand disruptions. And then specifically looking at chapter 3 into some examples from industries where we see that resilience varies because of the inherent characteristics of different industries. So we can keep in mind that position and not just look at resilience as an aggregate type across all markets. Week 3, we'll get into natural disasters and climate change policy and how that will impact how our supply chains operate. Then we'll follow that up with economic risk and society risks in chapters 6 and 7. Then chapters 8 and 10, we'll look at our unseemly characters who we run into in the world of corruption, political risk, and then followed up logically with cargo crime and terrorism, as I call it, the piratey issues that we currently are dealing with, particularly when it comes to ocean-bound freight. And then finally we'll wrap that up in our 7th week. Throughout each week, we are going to be very reliant on our textbook, so be sure you get a copy of that. That's the Manners Bell text, 2nd edition. It's a rare readable text, and he builds out a really nice framework that we can work through together to form a knowledge window into supply chain risk. So we'll have articles each week to look at some more current issues in supply chain risk. We'll have the textbook I said behind us. I will do a content video each week that'll provide some lecture type perspective and some terms we need to work with. And then whenever appropriate, I'll include some external videos that give us some different perspectives on dealing with supply chain risk. As the deliverables side goes, in order to see how you're learning and make sure we're progressing through the material, we'll use discussion forums each week. There'll be individual assignments and questions, and where appropriate, homework problems for us to work on. And then we'll wrap up the course not with a final exam, but with a final case, which will allow you to apply what we've been working on throughout the semester to a specific business situation, to interpret it and then provide recommendations. So here's how I set up the modules. Each week there'll be an online materials guide, which is essentially a Word document or PDF document that explains the assignments for the week, and so it goes out in textual form, and there's sentences and paragraphs explaining we're going to do this and here's what you're going to get out of it and so forth, and through each of the engagement tools that we'll have that week. There's also an online calendar, which I'm going to show you an example of. I use this visual flow chart. There's one for each week of our 7-week semester, and it allows you to take a quick thumbnail look at what we're going to get into that week, what kind of assignments there are, where the discussion forums fit, and in what order I recommend that you engage in that. And then possibly most importantly, at the very bottom, there's a calendar for the week, and it shows you the reminders of when there are things due. So our due dates will vary somewhat across the semester, but you can expect if we're doing a discussion forum, a required one, which we normally will, you'll need to put your initial post in by midweek, as you see that on, in this example, on Thursday, start required discussion board, and the expectation is that you will follow up later on in the week up to Sunday night, 11:59, to read the responses of your other participants and provide your reflection on their input. So normally there's going to be at least two required posts each week. So how the modules work, again, I mentioned you'll have an instructor's video, which is kind of my read on the chapter materials and the topics that we'll be addressing that week. It usually runs in the 3 to 7 minute range. Then we'll have any external videos, articles, and our textbook chapters that will be applied. The discussion forums, there's actually 3 available each week. The first is what I call the Course Cafe. The Course Cafe is actually just one forum, and it's already open, and it stays open throughout the semester, and that is, just like the term sounds, it's our coffee house, it's our hangout place, it's the place to vent, it's the place to put up comments and thoughts, general things you may run into outside of the course that you think are of interest, but it's not any specific things related to what we're doing each week. Separately, each week there will be 2 forums. They'll be posted in the weekly content folder. One is optional, and that's to post any questions. If you feel like the material was confusing, or you can't find a link, or you found something that adds to the discussion, and you just want to put it out there, hey, I saw this article, I saw this video, everybody might want to watch this. These are strictly optional, and place for you to post things and also to answer questions from other students. Then each week we will also have a required discussion forum, and it is marked separately in capital letters. It says required week 1, required week 2, and those are the ones where you will receive points for your participation, and there'll be specific seeded questions that I put out in the weekly materials guide that'll tell you what we're going to be discussing and some opening questions that you can address. My course policies, I know we get busy in the summer, but this is a 7-week course, so we have to keep moving. So I do accept late work, but it is 5% deduction per day late, and the max is 4 days, because by the time we're past 4 days, we'll be already into the next week's material, and it's time to just move on. So keep that in mind. If you'll be traveling or be out of the office, make sure that you know how you'll be able to access the discussion forum, because those have to be done given this particular schedule, and you need to be able to respond to people's posts. Your assignments you actually could do in advance and post those in many cases, so that if you have vacation or something, you won't need to disrupt that as much. Academic integrity certainly is always a challenge. I want to see your work when I'm grading things, so the discussion forums, the assignments, your final case. You're welcome to discuss these things in the Course Cafe with other students through email or other interactions, to test out your ideas, to get clarification on things. But when it comes to handing in your final work and items that will be graded, I want to be sure it's your work and not anyone else's. No cut and paste, no Bob said, Sarah said. I want to see what your thoughts are on the topic. So if you have any questions on that, please check in with me. One of the other policies I find really helps out in these online courses is what I call check 3 before me. We have some great materials. I try to structure everything fairly clearly in Blackboard. So I want you to do 3 things. If you get stuck on something, first thing you should do is please check the materials and the textbook, the posted materials, and see if the answer is already sitting there. Check the Course Cafe then to see if that question's already been asked and answered. And then third, check with your classmates, either through the Course Cafe, through the optional discussion forum each week, or directly with them through emails and various things. If you can't find the answer, then reach out to me via email, and I will do my best to point you in the right direction. But so often the questions are already answered out there. My grading perspective for a graduate course is what I call the 85% rule. That means that I think when it comes to graduate study, we all come into this with the ability to handle the assignments. And so you should be able to address each of these and learn the material and apply the material, and that's what I consider to be meeting my expectations, that you finish this course and have a solid, applicable understanding of supply chain risk management. If you have gaps in that understanding or didn't really study areas as much as you should, you'll find your grade drifts down toward the low 80s, the low 70s, and so forth, and further down the line. If you, on the other hand, say, no, I am an outstanding student, I always get an A, that means that you will exceed my expectations. So simply doing what is required is not sufficient to receive a grade of A in this course. You will need to look at each assignment and go above and beyond the minimum expectation that is stated in the assignment. So look for opportunities to show how you know more than what is the minimum requirement of the course if you're looking to move into that A range. So an 85 is really a good grade in my course, and I expect that everyone will attain that by doing their homework, doing their required assignments, and really learning the materials. But if you want to be above that, or if you allow yourself to drift below that, your grade will be adjusted accordingly. So be sure you get a copy of the text. It's available online as a Kindle download. It's available sometimes through public libraries, including the Towson University Library. Hard copies are available, so be sure you quickly obtain a copy of this course, of the materials, because the course is only 7 weeks. We will get moving very quickly this week. So let's dig in and enjoy this opportunity.